Hello and welcome to another video. Now, even by my standards, today's video is going to be right up there on the geek scale. And that's because we're going to be talking about a very specific piece of geekiness, and that is to do with a NAS. And not just any NAS, but a Synology NAS. So if you have a Synology and you also have a computer, I've got a Mac behind me, but this applies to Windows just as much as it does to Mac, then this is the video for you. And just in case you don't know, a NAS is a network attached storage device, and it's basically a computer with a load of hard drives in it. There are many advantages to having a NAS, including if you've got a RAID, the speed of access, as well as data redundancy if a disk dies, and all sorts of things, but that's not the purpose of this video. The plus sides are slightly outweighed by one negative side, which is accessing data over your network is never going to be as quick as if you access it on the drive that's built into your computer, or even a separated external USB drive, for example. It's not terrible. I have a gigabit network here, and for 5 years I used a trashcan Mac Pro plugged into my network, and my NAS was also plugged into my network, and I accessed data on it quite happily. There are, however, a few things that are not so great about accessing data over a network, where you can get a certain amount of latency, a certain amount of delay, that despite the fact that the network itself is quick in network terms, it's still slow enough for it to sometimes be a little bit annoying. So we're going to look at that, and we're also going to look at a way that with a Synology you can get around it if you put your hand in your pocket. So let's have a little look on my computer here. I have a Mac Pro here, but as I said, this equally applies to Windows as much as it does to the Mac. And what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is to connect to my Synology NAS. I'm going to mount a drive. So I have a load of shares here on my NAS. I'm going to connect to one of them, which is called Data. So it's connecting to my data. There we go. So you can see here that I have my data drive connected. And in here I've got a folder called Media. So I'm going to navigate into my Media folder. I've then got another folder called Royalty Free, and this contains images that that I have licenses for, that I've purchased licenses for, or that I've downloaded as freebies. Some of the stock libraries will give you a weekly free image, and I've collected quite a nice library of pictures. Now generally I'm quite good at storing my data in particular folder structures, but when it comes to my royalty-free images, I've just been dumping them in one huge folder, and there's, I don't know, hundreds of images in there. So this is quite a good example at listing a drive, listing a folder that has lots of things in it, and we can see how quick that is over a NAS. So I'm going to select my print folder here, and we'll see how long it takes to appear. Okay, that was at a rough guess. I wasn't timing it, but the time will be on the screen. When I edit this video, I'm going to put the time on the screen, and that was probably about 30 seconds, was it? I mean, it's certainly, long enough. I could have gone and put the kettle on, let's face it. So that's quite a bit of time. So there's all my pictures that are in this folder. The second thing that I'm going to do now is to search for something, because I've got a load of pictures in there, and say I want a particular picture of, I don't know, a beach. So now I'm going to go into the search box here, and I'm going to type in beach. So it's now doing that. You'll notice on here that it's not actually giving me any kind of progress, so I didn't know how long that was taking. The Synology does have an integration with the Finder, and it will use some indexing, a bit like Spotlight, but based on the NAS itself. I'm not entirely convinced how good that is, mind, but you can see here it has worked. But generally, if I look in here, I've got 12 items sitting in this folder, and all of these have the word beach in the file name. So that's how it's basically been able to find these. It's been able to find these images by using the file name of beach as part of it. And what I've tended to do when I get one of these pictures is that I will, rather than going and editing the metadata, because I know about this looking at the file name, I tend to add keywords into the file name. It's a bit, not really a great way of tagging pictures, let's be honest, but it's quick. So that's what I've done, and you can see then on here that we have a number of images, the 12 images on the beach. So that's great, and that served me reasonably well for 5 years while I had my trash can Mac Pro. But when I bought my iMac Pro, I decided to do something a little bit different because Synology have brought out a piece of software called Drive. It's been out a few months now, but this is quite clever because it is a piece of software that sits on your Synology NAS, but it also comes with some client software for Mac OS and also for Windows, as well as apps for Android and iOS as well. And it enables your systems to work together and to synchronize files across from the NAS to other devices. So it's a bit like having your own personal Dropbox is a way of thinking about it. So let's have a look at the software. So I'm now looking at my Synology NAS, and if I go into the file station, which is the typical piece of software that you would use on the NAS to look at your files, that's fairly standard. You can see I've got my data folder in there with my media, and that's the royalty-free images that we were just looking at. And this actually comes up fairly quickly if I'm looking at that, because I'm looking at this on the NAS. So what about this Drive thing? If I go into the package center and I'm just going to search for Drive, and you'll see there's Drive as one of the packages that you can install, and it's running on here. So this, if you have a Synology NAS and you want to install Drive, look for it in the package center and you can install Drive. So once you've installed Drive, you can go on into your list of applications on your Synology NAS and you'll see two icons for Drive. Drive, this is just a web interface into your files, a bit like the file station. But what we want to look at is the Drive admin console. If I go in there, then this shows that Drive is running. And the crucial thing here is the team folder. Now in here it will list the shares that you've set up on your NAS. So if I go into the control panel and I have a look at my shared folder at the top there, you can see I've got a number of shared folders set up on the system. So this is basically, in Drive, it's looking at your shared folders that you've already set up, and you can enable particular folders with Drive. So I've enabled my data folder, my programming folder, and my video editing folder, but I haven't bothered with any of these other ones. Now what this means is that my data folder, for example, which has my royalty-free images in, is Drive enabled. So it means that Drive knows about that particular share. So once you've got Drive set up on your Synology NAS and you've told it which of your shares that you want to be Drive enabled, you can install a piece of software on Windows or on Mac OS that will enable you to then access those folders and do things with them. So let's have a look at that. I've got the software installed on here, and you can see it up in my taskbar. There's a little icon up here. This is the Drive icon. And I'm going to go into the settings, and you've got an option here called Sync Tasks. So if I go into there, you can see that I've got my folders, data, programming, and video editing set up as what's called a two-way synchronization. So what this means is that you can take your folders and you can put a copy of them onto your computer. Now I've got a terabyte SSD in my iMac Pro, but I've got several terabytes of data on my Synology NAS. So what I did is I bought a lacy external drive that I've called Hathaway. It's a 10 terabyte unit, sits inside my network cabinet, and that's plugged in via USB 3 into my Mac. And the real advantage here is that it's configured as a Mac device. It's formatted in HFS plus. I could have formatted it in APFS. The advantage of having an external drive that's natively formatted is that you get all of the advantages of a natively formatted drive. Same applies to Windows. If you plug in an external drive and format it in NTFS, you can have all of the advantages of it integrating nicely with your operating system. This means that if I've got files and folders sitting on Hathaway on my external USB drive, Spotlight works with them, the metadata indexing works with it, all works seamlessly, and I get all the advantages of having a Mac volume with all of the integration that involves without losing any of the advantages of having a NAS. Because when I update a file on my external USB drive, this drive application will automatically and immediately sync it back to my NAS. If I then access my NAS from an external source, say remotely via my iPhone or iPad or via any device, an Android device or via a laptop, and I alter a file on the NAS, then the next time I turn on my Mac, the file will be automatically synced back to my external USB drive. The computer doesn't have to be on. The drive software will just will talk to the NAS and automatically sync the files that need to be updated. It's all seamless, it's all automatic, and I don't even need to think about it. So what does that mean in practical terms? Well, let's do an example. Let's do exactly what we did a moment ago. I'm going to close Drive here, but I'm going to open up now Hathaway, which is my external drive, and I'm going to go into my data, into the media folder, into royalty free. Now remember, last time that I selected print when I was accessing through just a normal SMB network connection, it took 30 seconds to list the drive. Now I must throw in here that of course the Mac will cache that data, and subsequent accesses while the computer's switched on will be a little bit faster than that, but even then they still won't be instant. So let's have a look and see how long this is going to take. I'll select print. Well, I don't even have to time it. You can see they just appeared instantly. There's all the files. So now I'll do the other thing that I did a little while ago, which was to search for beach. So let's search for beach. And instantly I have a load of files. I mean, they're there, the thumbnails are there. And in fact, it's found 22 files. So it's found all of the files that would have had beach in the file name. Let's just go back to the list here. So we can see there are top one, 2 young women exercising on the beach. So there they are. Cool, that looks painful. But there we are, there's one there. That's this second one down. Summer holiday, kids jumping into the sea. There we are, that's typically a beach photo, but it hasn't got beach in the file name. So you can see that this is using the proper searching that I would want it to. It's using metadata searching to find the information that I'm after. So this has given me now 22 files. And the important thing is that this is really, really quick to navigate through this file and through the pictures to find what I'm after. There's none of this kind of sitting around waiting 30 seconds for the list or the folder list to update. So what I'm going to do now is to demonstrate the update process. So what I'm going to do is, there's my list of images there. This is on my drive on Hathaway. I'm now going to let's create a new text document. So there's a text document. I'm going to type in there, hello world, and I'm now going to save that down. Now what I'm going to do, here's a little tip for you. If you've got a save dialog open and I want to save it straight away into this folder, you can see that it's defaulted to my desktop, but I want to save it here into my print folder. If I just drag and drop print into that dialog box, then it immediately jumps to the print folder, saving me having to navigate through and find it. Nice little tip that. So I'm now going to call this test.rtf in my print folder, and I'm going to save it down. And that's going to have gone in here somewhere. It's in alphabetical order, so I probably should have saved it with an underscore or something. But if I go down here somewhere, oh there it is, test.rtf. So if I now go into the data folder, this is directly on my NAS, and I'm going to go into my media and into royalty free and into print, and if I scroll down the list right to the bottom, you can see that the file there, test, hello world, there it is sitting on my NAS. And what I'm also now going to do is I'm now going to delete that file. Let's now delete it from the NAS. So we'll delete it from the NAS, we'll say delete, and if you watch down here, there we are, the bottom of the screen, that's already disappeared now. This is Hathaway on my connected USB drive, and it's kept it immediately in sync. That file has gone. Let's do something similar. So on the left hand side here we have my NAS, and on the right hand side of the screen we have Hathaway. So what I'm going to do, there's a picture of some snowdrops. I'm now going to rename that and call that Snowdrop, in capital letters, Snowdrop Flowers. And if you look on the right hand side of the screen, so I'm going to get ready, I've pressed return now, and there we go, within a couple of seconds that has been updated on my NAS. So now what I'm going to do, actually sorry, it was the other way around. The left hand side was the NAS and the right hand side was Hathaway. But it doesn't really matter. This is the point. It doesn't matter which way around it is. I'm now going to rename that back from the other way. So this is my external USB drive. I'm actually going to change that back to just Snowdrops. And then the other folder on the other side, which is actually my, there we go, on there, my NAS, that has already just changed to Snowdrops. And the same thing applies if you're moving files, deleting them, renaming them, it's all instant. And if my Mac was switched off, as I said earlier, when I switch it back on, it will catch up with any updates that have gone on the NAS through other devices that are connected into it. So that's been a rather quick and, let's be honest, rambly look at Synology Drive. In summary, it's given me all the advantages of having a NAS device with all the advantages of having a connected USB external drive on my computer. It solves all the problems. It means that I can keep my data on the NAS, back up to the cloud, access it from external, mobile or laptop or whatever I want to do. When I'm away from home, I can access the data on the NAS, knowing full well that when I come back and I switch on my main computer, all the files on my connected USB drive will be updated. It's given me all the advantages then of being able to use things like Spotlight and have the speed of a connected drive that I was perhaps lacking a little bit when I was constantly accessing via the network. It's a great piece of software. If you've got Synology, you'll definitely want to check it out. Have a look on the Synology website for Drive. Use your favourite search engine and search for Synology Drive. If you've got any questions about it, then I'll do my best to answer them. Post them in the comments below. And if you don't mind this kind of slightly rambling, unscripted version of tech videos, then you'll want to subscribe. There's a link button coming up shortly, together with some suggestions of other rambly videos that I've made on this channel. Thanks very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video, and yeah, catch you next time.